programs are going to focus on the re-election of President Biden and Vice President Harris, flipping the House, and holding the Senate. Our democracy is at risk, and getting Democrats elected up and down the ballot across the country is critical. So we welcome Alex Smullen, who is the volunteer leader from Swing Left of the North Shore of Indiana. I think many of you know her. And she'll speak to things we can be doing right now, as well as some things that are going on for 2024 to make that happen.
Great. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here. And I know there are several people in the audience who have been involved for a long time, and I will try to move through the background quickly so that I don't bore them too badly. But as Kathy said, you know, our objectives have been since, well, for a long time, electing Democrats as to the House, the Senate, and as president, but it's obviously become more and more acute in the current circumstances. And Swing Left is solely focused on those tasks. And I always like to say that it's not because there aren't other important things to do, but it is an organization that fits within an ecosystem that includes people who are doing a lot of other things, which are all important, working on issues, working at different levels in terms of campaigns. But the particular niche of Swing Left is electing Democrats, especially in the federal offices. Now, that said, one of the things that we've learned over the last few years is that there are, first of all, very important things that happen at levels other than the federal level, and that severely affect what happens at the federal level, especially around gerrymandering. So I think that the remit has broadened out in the sense that, yes, we are still looking to make sure that we have Democrats in charge in Washington, but the importance both of having them at the more local levels, as well as the fact that that can build Democratic turnout to get those other objectives. So this year in particular, being an off year where there really weren't federal elections anyway, we really turned our attention to the states, working in Wisconsin on the judicial election, working in Virginia on the very important legislative races, and then working at least in August to make sure that the referendum that's on the ballot this November was going to be able to pass with a majority, a simple majority of voters. So that's kind of a quick review of this year. There's still 2 weeks until November 7th, so I wouldn't want to leave people with the impression that there's nothing to do. And for those of you who've been involved, you are aware that the main effort and activity of Swing Left North Shore Cape Band has really been writing postcards. And we have a pretty prodigious postcard operation. We have 10 pickup locations on the North Shore from Rockport to Lynn. And I would say on any given round of postcards, 75 to 110 people participate, and we send out 3,000 to 4,000 postcards. So, you know, we really are cranking on that level, and that churns along very nicely. The other thing that I've really been working very hard to try and establish is a, maybe not huge, but a fearsome voter protection group. And I've focused on voter protection for a couple of reasons. One is it's really important. You know, when you're dealing with voter protection, you're talking about making sure that people who got absentee ballots actually vote them. You're making sure that people who aren't going to get their absentee ballots are aware that it's not coming, and they better either vote early or vote in person or reapply. Or they turned in their ballot and it's not going to be counted because they made a mistake. They didn't put it in the right envelope, and they didn't put the witness didn't put their address, or, you know, it varies. Sometimes it varies from below state level. It's really quite multifarious. So, but in addition to that, there are voter protection work going on all the time. one of the big concerns in Michigan, where there are lots and lots of counties, is that some of the Republicans who will be coming on as the canvassers, who are the people who certify the votes, are going to be election deniers. And so over the summer, some of the voter protection people, volunteers, were calling the Democratic canvassers in those districts to get intelligence about the Republican canvassers, to see which counties they really need to focus on to make sure that there isn't a problem with certification of votes. So there's some phone calling. There's some people are trained to actually person the voter protection hotlines. And in those cases, the people are actually calling you. So you don't have to worry that you're calling someone who's not going to be glad that you called, because they literally call you. You take 2-hour shifts or 4-hour shifts. So it's a very, very, very powerful way to be involved in making sure that Democrats get out and that their votes get counted. So I will kind of stop there. I will stick around after and be happy.
Question.
Okay.
Are you involved with the mass dems on Sundays?
Just restate the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was whether I'm involved with the Mass Dems Hub on Sundays. I'm trying to, I get their information, and I occasionally I sometimes disseminate their information, but that is also another good source of opportunities to work on the important federal things. I agree with that.
Is there evidence that the postcards work?
Is there evidence that the postcards work? So, first of all, just to set some expectations about what works means, 0.4% to 1.1%, those are like stellar postcard results. I will say that most of the projects I work on are that we all work on, are through a group called Swing Blue Alliance. And they do have a research team, and for almost all of the projects we do, they hold out controls, and they do follow through and determine what the success was. Going way back to when we were doing the Florida, it was really the most ideal project, getting people to vote by mail in Florida. We had really good tracking about how effective that was. It's frustrating. It takes a long time to get the results, because the first thing that has to happen before you can even analyze it is that the results have to come in, and the Secretary of the State needs to post them. So you get 2, 3, 4 months of delays before you even have the data. I don't want to be over enthusiastic, because there's still a lot of data cleaning to do. But the preliminary look at the postcarding we did in Wisconsin seems to look like it's going to have been positive. But I'd like to say another thing about that. So I have this theory about political activism, which is that it's kind of like the Mediterranean diet. So, every few years, someone comes up and says, the reason the Mediterranean diet works is because of red wine, or the reason it works is because of fish. And, nobody really knows why the Mediterranean diet works. I do believe that there is a pure level of activism that ignites the ether. And, if you're writing postcards and people know you're writing postcards, and they know somebody in Virginia, and they say, oh, my friend just wrote postcards, and that person says, oh God, I better get out and vote. I am very certain that there are unmeasurable impacts of activism. And it's like, the guy in the circus with the plates. I feel like my job is to get as many plates spinning as I possibly can. So I hope some of you will talk to me later. Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a movement to have states award electoral votes 100% to whoever won the popular.
Yes, it's called the the national popular vote act, something,
Right, right.
yeah.
Are you working on that? Is Swift working on that?
You know, we haven't worked directly on that. I'm not up to date on it, but do people know what it is? So, okay, well, just quickly for those who don't. It was started by Common Cause, and they're going around state by state, and they're asking the state legislature to pass a law that says, at such time as enough states that represent a majority of the electoral college pass this legislation, and at that time, we will cast our electoral votes for the person who won the national popular vote. So as soon as there are 200 states representing 271 votes who agree to this, it would operationalize, and those 271 votes, which is a majority, I think that's the right number, would elect the president based on the national popular vote. The last time I looked, it was like 150 or 170. And the problem was that basically all the states who were going to say yes, that were obvious, had already said yes. And, but that, now you've piqued my curiosity to go back and see if, you know, because if there are some states that are also critical for, you know, some of the important states, that's something we should probably work on, you know, yeah, let me look into that.
Right.
I just sent out 100 postcards to Virginia. Yeah, great. But if we all do that, it is really important because I play with it. You have a text that you have to send, you know, but then I'll do new parts, so you know, I'll make it personal. And the rate that it increases people going to vote is amazing. Just that little postcard to that person. That I told you volunteer for.
We have a little testimonial for those of you who can't hear.
I signed with my name and underneath I wrote idealistic volunteer.
Never do it.
So they had an idea of who was sending it.
Yeah. That's great. So I'm going to be here at the end of the meeting. Anybody who isn't on my list and who would like to be and or have more questions, I'd be more than happy to chat. And thank all of you. Oops, one more.
I only wanted to say, as someone who has been following the high priestess postcards since 2016, kudos to you and thank you. The amount of email follow-ups and careful correction and hey guys, this and not that. Just thank you, Alex. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. My pleasure, and it's got to be with all of you. Thanks. You're welcome.
And for those on Zoom, that was a thank you to Alex for doing the good work she's doing. Okay, we're right on schedule. I'm going to now welcome Annie Collins. Some of you may know Annie. Annie and I knocked doors last fall, right? In Lynn together. We went to New Hampshire together, but I've known her a long time doing activism. Anyway, in one of our conversations, she mentioned a young woman who recently came here from the Ukraine, not the Ukraine, sorry, from Ukraine. Lana Denshine. So I thought it would be appropriate to have Annie introduce Lana.
Let me know if you can't hear me. You're all set?
Yeah.
Lana and I met, well, right after she came here. The war broke out in February. And it was a thing that I had seen President Zelensky on TV that Saturday morning. And I said, he just touched my heart. He was saying he was going to stay in Ukraine and support his country. And I was like, and I'm a pretty good Catholic, I'll be honest. And I said, I see God in him. I see God around him. And I said, I want to do something to help out Ukraine. So I thought about it all weekend. About 2 weeks later, I'm in a gym working out, and this one comes up, and I can see something out of the corner of my eyes, and she said, "I don't want to scare you. My name's Lana from Ukraine." I said, "You're from Ukraine?" And she was from Ukraine, and we've been friends ever since. And she's quite a young lady. She's a little bit shy of all of us tonight. So Kathy's going to read some of her story. It's a pretty emotional story. To talk about it, she came here through the United for Ukraine program, and her sister-in-law and brother-in-law were very responsible in sponsoring her to come over here. She's getting, and she's persevered for full 13 months right now. And it's not an easy thing to do. The sister set it up, and because she had a full-time job and I'm retired, I was helping Lana out and getting her work permit and getting her license. And by the time she bought a car, and I was like, "We're down to DMV in Revere." And I said, "Now, do you need me to come with you?" She said, "No, I get it." And she went in, and then I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, does she know to get that little red sticker in the back that's gonna say 23 or 25? So I said to the guy next to me, I said, "I'm gonna go see." And he said, "She's got it." I said, "Well, let me go see." She had it. She had all day. So for what she did in 12 months was pretty damn incredible. I think so highly of her, and I'm thrilled that I had the opportunity. And I do a lot of volunteering through retirement, but this has been the most rewarding that I've ever had. And I love her dearly.
So I met Lana several months ago with Annie. And then Leslie and Annie and Lana and I met a few weeks ago to talk about this evening and what we should do. And Lana wrote a journal. And we thought a good way for her, because her English is fantastic, but she's still a little nervous about it. It would be good for her to read her journal, part of it. And then, because the journal ends when she arrives here, and then kind of tell you her story since arriving in Marblehead. So today I received a text, and she said, I'm going to start to cry. She said, "I started to read my journal and I can't do it." So I said, "How about if I read your journal, and then you can say a few words after that, maybe answer a few of your questions." So I timed it. It takes about 10 minutes. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just reading excerpts from it. It is so powerful. And, what she said when we met her a couple of weeks ago, that she was so empathetic with what Israel, right? Because they're going through what she went through. But then the other part is when you hear what she has accomplished since she's been here, and she's got a young son who's here with her, it's hopeful as well. So we're going to end on hope at the end. But let me tell you her story. And again, this is just excerpts. The war started on February 24th, 2022. Calls began to come from different people, and they all said that the war had begun and that we needed to leave. We began to think about ways to go. I had already had a bag with documents and things for a few days. We didn't have a basement in our house, so we woke up our son, Tom, and went to our friends in our neighborhood because they had a basement, and this is the safest place during shelling. They lived 10 minutes from us by car, and the road was calm. Goes on to talk about getting updates on the TV. The first day of the war we spent at our friend's house. More and more people came to their house, and at some point there were too many people there. The next day we decided to return to our house, and we spent the next 5 days there, or rather in the bathroom of our house, because it was in the middle of the house and had no windows. One of the things I'm actually going to do right now is share my screen with a map of Ukraine. Um, okay, here we go. Can you all see that? You know, nothing simple, is it?
There you go.
So I'm gonna try to put my mouse, can you see right here, Kharkiv? That's where she's from. And this is the border with Russia. Okay, so she was right on the front line. And this map is interesting because it,
Yeah, I think there's, you know,
okay. It talks about land that Russia gained, and then the yellow is land retaken by Ukraine. So the red is, and then the orange or the salmon is land they took in 2014, like Crimea is down here, okay? So this is where she was. And there's some other photos here that I can show you when we get to that point. Okay. So she's in her home in the bathroom because it was the safest place.
Yeah.
On the second day, my husband went to the grocery store to buy some food, but he came back with nothing. The stores were already empty. We had food supplies, but I was worried because no one understood how long we would have to stay in the house and how long we would be able to eat this food. Every time I cooked and served to eat, the portions were smaller than usual. I gave my son only 2 cookies and some tea. He was confused. He did not understand why and what was going on. How old was he at this time, Lana? 11. He asked me why he couldn't eat as much as usual, as much as he wanted. My heart was broken. I was trying to explain the situation at the same time without scaring him. The next day, my husband came home after work. He works in critical infrastructure and did not miss a single day at work, either in COVID times or during the war, bringing a lot of different food. I was against him going to work. I was very scared to let him go. I didn't know if he would come back. The neighboring city, Balakleya, was already occupied by the Russians. I knew from acquaintances in that city how cruelly they treated those who did not welcome them. Someone was killed in front of their family. Someone went missing. I read about other occupied cities, and I knew that not only those who continued to claim glory to Ukraine were killed, but also their families. My husband is Ukrainian, and he has always been a patriot of his country, also a very categorical person. He would never submit to the Russians. I don't know what I feared more than the bombs or the occupation. I was very much afraid that I would have to communicate with the Russians if they came, and we would definitely have to, given his place, his and my place of work, city government. I knew that he would be killed almost immediately. On the other hand, I understood the importance of the need for what he does, since he is the deputy director of a public utility company. They have a lot of equipment. He sent some cars to another city where they took flour and brought a whole truckload of flour so that the enterprise could bake bread for the population. Other equipment was sent to the quarry to extract sand in order to build posts with other equipment. They dug in, and he controlled all these processes. First of all, this is a non-English speaking. First language is not English. Amazing. I don't think I could write this well, Lana. I'm again, just excerpts. We were in touch with our friends all the time. And on March 1st, in the evening, they called us and said that tomorrow morning they would try to leave. So now we're on March 1st. They were the most heavily shelled area of Kharkiv. They had 2 more families with them who came to their house because they had a basement. They had no electricity for several days because of the bombings, and it was very cold, and there was no water or food. They were in despair and decided to leave. Although it was very scary, my husband did not want to leave because in our area, we did not hear so much. We only heard the sounds of exploding bombs about 10 miles from us. But literally 10 minutes after talking with friends, we heard an eerie sound. All of the windows and walls in the house trembled. We couldn't hide it from our son. Something exploded very close. We were all very frightened. The decision was made. The next morning at 6 a.m., we left our house. In 16 hours, we were able to cover a distance of 190 miles because traffic was heavy. And I did the calculation, it's like 12 miles an hour.
Which way did they drive?
To the center. To the center.
Toward the center. Okay.
Traffic was heavy. It looked like everyone was trying to leave Kharkiv. On the first night, we could not find a hotel. Everything was busy, and we spent the night in the car. We could not move further since the curfew had already begun and nobody could drive. The next morning, we continued looking for a hotel because everyone was exhausted and needed to have a rest. We were very lucky, and we found a hotel where we could stay. There we stayed for a few days to think about our next steps. Some of our friends decided to stay in Western Ukraine. In our family, it was decided that my husband would return home and Platon and I would move on to Poland. I think you all know Poland took in many, many Ukrainians. So then she talks about trying to get a train to Western Ukraine. And she finds a train, and the next 24 hours we spent on the train without toilets and food. We had some food with water with us, but I didn't want to use it because I knew there was no toilet on the train. It was not designed to carry passengers, the train. The carriage was crowded. People were sitting, standing. Some were getting sick from tension or stuffiness. People were just lying in the aisle. Yeah, I figured I would finish the story and then Lana could explain the pictures. I think some of them are clear, but some of them I wasn't sure. Platon faithfully followed all my instructions. In the train, he met a boy from Kharkiv and even played with him and joked. Throughout the journey and to this day, I'm insanely proud of my son, how he endured all this, worthy of respect and admiration. I'm not going to read what your husband said to him. I thought that the train was the worst thing, but it turned out that everything was ahead. When we arrived at the Lviv train station, this did not solve the problem with the toilet or the food. When the doors opened in front of me, I was standing first. I couldn't even put my foot on the platform. There were so many people there. And there's a photo, I think, of that. I thought we would take a train or a bus to Poland and started looking for one. When I made my way to the first volunteer and said, "I'm sorry, how can I leave for Poland today?" He laughed in my face, pointed to the people who were sleeping on the floor in just their clothes and said, "Can you see them? They've been here for 2 days. You won't leave today or tomorrow." At first, I succumbed to the herd instinct. The train station was closed, and on the street, I saw a huge line. I went to the line and tried to get in front of it. We stood in line for a couple of hours. It was insanely cold. I saw that Platon was already very cold because we were not warmly dressed. And on the street, it was frosty outside. I realized if we stood there for a day, it would not work. Only then I left the station and went to the bus station. At the same time, I tried to Google taxi numbers to look for a taxi. They were so overcrowded, they just turned off their phones. I tried to take the bus. Well, of course, there were thousands of people like me with tickets of 100 euros. I offered 300 to 500 euros if only they took us, but the bus was full and the driver didn't take anyone. He took only women with babies. I was in despair. I saw how much Platon froze. I decided to take a break from my attempts and find just a cafe to drink tea, go to the toilet, and warm up. So she's trying to find a solution. And with help from friends who left the first day of the war, she finds her way to the border of Poland. On the 8th of March, 2023, around 8 a.m., we crossed the border into Poland. There were many volunteers. Everyone was very, very neat, very friendly, and very careful with us. We were immediately given food and drink. There was an evacuation bus for Ukrainians. We got on it. 6 hours later, we were in Warsaw, where we were met by our nephew. We spent the next 3 months in Poland. And when the American program United for Ukraine started to work, we immediately took advantage of it, as we understood that in the near future, we would not be able to return home. According to this program, you must have a sponsor who accepts you. My sister-in-law was our sponsor, for which we are immensely grateful to her and her family. And I think that's how you landed in Marblehead, right? So this is the first part of Lana's story, and it ends this way. Probably every person of my age in Ukraine grew up with the words, "If only there was no war." These words were always spoken by our grandparents, who basically caught the Second World War. I heard a lot of stories from my grandmother, who survived the war as a teenage girl, and I was always madly afraid of war. I knew there was nothing worse. In those days, I thought how good it is that our grandmothers did not live to see this moment, because I can't imagine what would have happened to them if they knew Russia attacked us. So maybe, Lana, if you don't mind coming up, and I'll flip through the photos that you sent, and maybe you can describe what they are. Isn't she lovely?
Here, hello.
So number,
First photo. Yeah, it's when we were at our bathroom.
is that a dog? Is it, I guess
Yeah.
it's so,
Yeah, it's our dog. She was with us. Oh, this is so small.
yeah, that's the way it came. I don't know how to make it bigger.
Yeah,
You're probably
second, maybe I will. Yeah, I'm sorry. So it's my son. He was sleeping in bathroom.
the bathtub.
Yes, the bathtub, because it was the safest place. Sometimes my husband slept there. So we switched. This photo, yeah, it was from.
Kharkiv to
No, it was in Lviv. when I was-
to Krakow,
Yeah,
which is Poland.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
When I was trying to get Poland.
There's one picture.
Oh, yeah, it's also so small. Sorry, it was from evacuation train. Yeah, we can see here, but it was like, I don't know, so many people there.
I think it's the next picture
Yeah,
with all
and
the.
next picture is from railway station. Here in Lviv, it was like thousands of people.
There's one photo, I don't know where it is, but
Yeah,
I think
it's-
it's that 13, as you can
Yeah,
really
it's-
see.
Just my son, we just waiting for evacuation train.
Oh, yeah, he's from train, and so he met a boy from Kharkiv too. And
He's so handsome, I think.
yeah, he's cute. Oh, yeah, it's when we crossed the border with Poland. It was road from Kharkiv, but it's also so small.
But this 13, this picture is just unbelievable.
Oh, 13, yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's railway station.
So that was.
But no, yeah, I think this is, it's not my photo, but I'm one of these people.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it's what else in train. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. We're all just hearing your story and your words and, can you just talk about what's happened
Yeah.
since you arrived?
Yeah.
Are you able to do that?
Yeah. So, yeah, when we arrived, and I really appreciate government and our relatives, thank you Annie, for this opportunity, that we can stay here, we can stay safe. But so last year I spent learning English. I joined to Harioh Community College, and I took course of English.
So Holyoke Community College.
Yeah.
Was offering what, was an online,
Yes,
right?
it's online, it's free, and I really appreciate this. And I had some part-time job during this year because I was waited for my work permit pretty long. It was like 9 months. And last year my son went to school here in Marblehead. So now he's doing great. He has great English, much better than mine. But I'm still learning, and yes, and he's happy. He's happy, yeah, because he has new friends here. He likes his school, and he feels good now. But yeah,
Are you in touch with your husband? Can you call him?
yes, we have connection. They have connection.
So the question for the folks on Zoom, is Lana able to speak with her husband? Can't leave the country, right?
Yes, he can.
And I'm sorry, you can't leave.
And we can't leave United States because of this program. We must stay here for some while. I don't know how much. I will see. I hope that they will make some don't know, like they will, extensions to this program. Maybe at least we can go.
Look at the visa you're on.
This type of visa called humanitarian parole. So we can live with this type of visa, but I hope that something will change. And at least we can come to Europe, that my relatives, my mom, my stepmom can go there. Yeah, and
Because Platon hasn't seen his dad since March 2022. You know, you kind of like you read about, then you put yourself in her son's shoes, and it's just heart-wrenching. But the day we met her to talk about tonight, she told us she got a job.
oh yeah, it's just my first day.
Today was her first day.
Yeah, today it's my first day, so that's why.
What is she doing?
I work at a property management company in Boston. It's property manager assistant.
What part of Boston?
It's almost Brighton so far.
Oh, so much.
Yeah, so far. But
So how was it? Your first day?
it was not bad. Not bad. But we'll see. we'll see, but I need to start with something, so everything will be fine. I hope.
Go ahead.
Sure.
What did you do in Ukraine?
In Ukraine, I work as the head of department of maintenance and I don't know how to say in English. So like in city council.
But it was in this.
Sorry, what?
Is your son at veteran school?
Yes, now he's in vet in 7th grade.
That's great. My son is too.
Oh, he's
Yes,
in a
we should
black
talk
team.
after.
Yeah, so I will be happy. Thank you. Yes.
He's on the volleyball team.
Yeah, and then volleyball. team.
Any other questions? Anyway, I just,
Not really, but
Mhm.
Lon and I actually live in the same house.
Yes.
Not that kind of one, but
Yeah, we are
they've been
neighbors.
great neighbors and her son's
Yes,
really
we
a
are
great
neighbors.
child, great boy, he loves riding his bike, he
Yes.
got a bike all the time,
Can you catch your dog?
not quite. Stewie's still like crazy.
so for those on Zoom, Tim Schottmeyer lives in the apartment building as Lana. We,
What can we do to make things easier for you?
Oh,
so the question
Thank you
was,
so
what,
much.
what
Yeah.
can we do to help her life?
I don't know. I appreciate your support so much. I don't know, just we'll be in touch. Just I really appreciate support of all people that I met on my way.
Do you have warm winter clothes?
Yes, thank you so much.
So
Sorry,
the
what?
question was, do you have arrangements for Platon while you're at work? Who looks after, take care of him?
He at school almost until 4. And he is more than 12 now, so he can go just by himself from school and wait for me at home.
Is there like a great community in the city of Massachusetts? like Worcester?
Yes, I know that a lot of it, but also you have no imagine how many Ukrainians here now. Even in Marblehead in Swampscott. I have many friends here who I met here. During this year, they came just like me, like about a year ago. And I can say that it's like big community, but yeah, we have our people here. We can spend our holidays, some days together.
Any suggestions on how we can help you?
Question was, suggestions on how we can help Ukraine.
Just keep doing that you do before. Just support. I'm not political, yeah. So just keep doing that. You did.
Do you think Zelensky is a good leader?
Yes, 100%. Yes, he's really good at his job. Yeah.
So for you, Lana, current president is a Democrat.
Yeah.
We're all Democrats.
Mhm.
And so towards to make sure President Biden gets reelected so that support for Ukraine will continue.
I hope.
Because
Yes.
the other side,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that will
Yeah.
happen. So that's why
Yeah.
I just wanted you to know that.
And I hope the Democrats will be at their position.
Thank you so much. You're so great.
Yeah.
Now you know why I fell in love with her. I wanted to end tonight. With. Some excerpts from President Biden's Oval Office address last Friday. He explains why supporting Ukraine is critical to U.S. national security. So this is just a couple of excerpts. I know these conflicts can seem far away, and it's natural to ask, why does this matter to America? So let me share with you why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital for America's national security. You know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the costs and the threats to America and the world keep rising. So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself to just Ukraine. Putin has already threatened to remind Poland that their Western land was a gift from Russia. One of his top advisors, a former president of Russia, has called Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania Russia's Baltic provinces. These are all NATO allies. He goes on, if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, we would be aggressors around the world, would embolden to try the same. The risk of conflict and chaos would spread in other parts of the world, in Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East. So again, you know, I'm focusing our programs for the next year or so on keeping our democracy, which means re-electing our president, keeping the Senate, flipping the House so we can keep our democracy. And we thank Lana for sharing her story and bringing it home, what could happen. We're going to have a little social period. We have to be out of here. So we have half hour if we want. Yes.
Can I just intersect?
Sure.
Something, I mean.
Come up here so that folks on Zoom can hear you, Margie.
Sure. I didn't mean to do this, but, Kathy has taken the helm and sending out the Biden accomplishments. And it gives us something to stand on, something that we have, something that we can send around. And any of our friends who are Democrats who tell us, I just wish he wasn't so old, or I wish it wasn't Kamala who was the vice president. I mean, just tell them to stand up, look in the mirror, and see what the alternatives are. And this what-ism, this just doesn't work in today's politics. And we Democrats have to have a little sharper elbows. We're too nice with our friends. And we just have to call it as it is. I mean, if you just heard in 60 Minutes in Australia, Trump is giving nuclear secrets away to a billionaire in Australia. And he could be the next president. Come on, guys. We have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to thank Kathy for giving us the ammunition. And we just have to take it and welcome with open arms our compatriots. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Margie. I wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley.
Yeah.
Because she's on your side.
I know. That was a joke. Okay, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Very mundane.
Bring it back down to earth.
No.
I need people to sign up for refreshments for the next meetings. So I'm gonna pass this around. And, yeah. Jumping back.
Yes,
They
please,
were there and,
please, you can come up here so that.
So I just wanted to make sure that people listen to Radio Boston on WBUR. Tatiana interviewed Seth Moulton. And I forget the day, but it was within the last week. I'll send.
That's here.
Oh. It was unbelievable. It was such an excellent.
He's actually been on there a couple times last week, so they're
But,
both good though. Listen to them
Yeah,
both.
because
Yeah,
he talked all about Israel terrorism, but in a very measured way, and how you can't, how all the mistakes we made as a country after 9/11, just unbelievably clear-headed and just excellent, excellent, excellent. So, yeah, maybe between that and I
Yeah.
would get you the links.
Send me the
It's
link or
it's
something.
just, it's so easy to listen to, and it's short. It's probably, the one I heard was maybe 20 minutes, but just so concise and on target, and just made me so proud of Seth. But I felt like in all the clouds of sadness and craziness over the last couple of weeks, it was the Biden's speech was also very good, but those are two high points. So.
Thank you very much. Just before I close, does anybody, Renee, do you want to say something? Come on up and come this way.
I just wanted to call people's attention to a meeting with the zoning board on Thursday night. For anyone who is tuning in and cares about affordable housing in town, one of the things we have to do is you're looking at, what the MBTA Communities Act is and the overlay districts for that will have to be rezoned and all. And I know there'll definitely be people there who are a little nervous and resistant about the whole idea of what affordable housing could be for the community. So it would just be good to have a lot of people who are coming with an open mind and have good questions, clarifying questions and all to ask. So I just wanted to call your attention to that. You can find the link on Zoom, on the marblehead.org page, public meetings.
Will it be hybrid?
I don't know that it's in person. It's definitely on Zoom.
It's on hybrid. So
I think you'll probably be able to ask questions about the presentation. They're doing a presentation on the zoning, so.
where is the meeting?
Where? I don't know where they're meeting, whether it's at Abbott Hall or Mary Alley, possibly. Yeah.
You live in Marblehead Meadows, which is on Green Street, the new house.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And two of the houses are affordable housing,
yeah,
and it's fabulous.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, it's not that people who can afford affordable housing are poverty stricken and are going through problems. But it makes it a much more diverse community.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah, so, and the hope is to have like a range of different housing options for seniors who, want to downsize and free up a home for a family, or, for, families or renters, or, our young professionals who come here to work, as teachers or whatever, and can't afford to be part of the community. I think we all know people that have had to leave that were because of the housing situation here in town, that were really invested and contributed a lot to the community. So anyway, that's all I want to say. Mimi knows much more about this than I do, but I just wanted to note that meeting on Thursday.
Does anyone on Zoom have comments, questions, anything before we close? Go ahead, Owen. You're on mute.
I was just gonna say one thing, if I might, that maybe this came up at the last meeting, but I don't know if it did, but I just wanted, you said a few minutes ago, you talked about what your plans are for the next year. And I just want to say how grateful I think we all are that you are making plans for the next year. And I think it's really cool that you're going to be in that role. So thank you.
Thanks, Owen. Okay. With that, I'll close. May I have a motion to close the meeting? Second, October meeting is officially closed at 7:23. Thanks, everyone, and please enjoy. Okay, Zoom folks, I'm gonna end the meeting. Unless you wanna hang on and talk to people. I think it's kind of hard though, right?
Thank you. It's great.